pace was definitely better, especially the early laps. I was right with George and Max.
And a lot of people listening and watching will not be happy with how Max's race finished.
As a team, we will react and we will make sure that these sort of things cannot happen again.
What an amazing crowd here at Silverstone. You know, well over 500,000 people attended over the weekend.
Welcome back to the Talking Ball podcast, powered by Ava Trade. My name is Tommo. His name is Cal. Sensational backdrop at Silverstone. I'm at home at my office. You're putting me to shame here, Cal.
Mate, we're making a bit of habit of this, aren't we? You know, you're at home, and I know you've obviously got a newborn, and you're very busy being a new dad, and I can appreciate that. But I have to say, mate, I'm loving these trips out for me. And yeah, again, I've got a lovely backdrop of Silverstone. It's been a busy weekend, but yeah, good to be here. Good to be talking to you, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Not too bad. Look, a second kind of home race, of course, Austria Spielberg, home of Red Bull, and of course Oracle Red Bull Racing, based out of Milton Keynes as well, not too far from Silverstone at all. Record-breaking attendances to Silverstone this weekend as well, which made it particularly annoying how the race kind of ended under a safety car. But anyway, that's by the by. Cal, first of all, I guess main question, like, what are the vibes been at Silverstone this weekend? Because looking from afar, it's looked like there's been a lot going on.
Mate, I have to say the best way to describe the atmosphere and the vibe here at Silverstone this week is probably immaculate. It's been amazing, right? Like the fan support, the love, there's been so much of it going around. So yeah, it's been a good week in terms of the experience at Silverstone circuit this week. As you mentioned, the race didn't quite end as we would have liked it to, but you know, we take it and we move on to the next one.
Absolutely, we do. And of course, you know, we did speak on this very podcast post-Austria, where of course, you know, Max had a fantastic opportunity to win that race, maybe on another day. But this season, this start of these 26 regulations, not just with Oracle Red Bull Racing, with Ferrari, with Mercedes, with McLaren, it's very up and down, swings and roundabouts, right? And this weekend, it's one of them where it just didn't quite go to plan, did it?
No, this is it. Look, I think we kind of struggled all week to get the cars in a window that we were working for. I don't think the track in itself and its layout particularly suits us, but I know Max has, you know, spoken quite openly about the way the regulations affect racing at a track around Silverstone. So as I said, it's not been our week, it's not what we wanted, but you know, again, and I love this idea of a home race at Silverstone. I think like people often forget, you know, with our Austrian roots, we do have also 2,000 people working in Milton Keynes to get these cars built, so it does often feel like a home race here at Silverstone. I will say though, it's often way more busy. Like you think, oh, you're at home and everything's great. What tends to happen among the factories of teams here is that they say, oh, well, the track's only just down the road, so parts arrive late and you're constantly getting vans back and forth, and the workload can seem even more busy with all the guests you have in the garage. But look, it's been an amazing week here at Silverstone in terms of the atmosphere and the vibe. Like I said, the result didn't go the way we wanted it, and there's definitely work to do in getting the car in the window that we're looking for. But, you know, again, you know, a week of learning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the sprint weekend as well. So less opportunity in FP1, of course, on Friday to take those learnings. Still Max P3 in sprint quali, which was, you know, decent. We had some decent one-lap pace. Isack P5, Max P7 in normal qualifying as well. First question I've got for you, Cal, actually. It's quite a technical one, and as, of course, former engine tech at the team, I'm hoping you'll have a good answer for this one. I'm testing your knowledge here. So when a driver complains about downshifts, feeling a bit rubbish, what does that actually mean?
Well, I mean, essentially what Max is talking about is in every braking zone as you're coming down the gears through the box, the synchronicity of it and the engine blip, you know, raising the throttle as you get down in the gears to make that ride as smooth as possible is just not the way he likes it. And obviously the last thing a race driver wants is to have a car that's unsettled in a braking zone. So downshifts obviously really detrimental to that when it's not working the way you like. And this is a complaint I remember hearing Max very clearly talk about for many years, even before these regulations. But I think with these power units, it's just another aspect that you've got to manage really well, because, you know, so energy dependent here in Silverstone, is starved of places for you to harvest that energy. So obviously getting downshifts right, as well as clawing back all of that energy that you're looking to put into your battery, it just becomes an even bigger challenge. And that's why I'm not surprised that it's been something that's not just for ourselves, but up and down the paddock.
You know, going into this Grand Prix, you know, there was talk about potentially change an engine. The team decided to not do that. Obviously, you take a pit lane start. You know, when it comes to weighing up that decision, because it's a huge penalty to take a pit lane start. At the same time, you're bringing an engine into your pool earlier on in the season. You know, how is that decision weighed up from an internal point of view to make sure you're never going to know? You're never going to be able to play the alternative scenario where you did bring a new engine. But how do you best make sure you're making the right decision from that point of view?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. There are so many things to weigh up, not just whether giving you a new power unit for the day on a Sunday will give you an advantage that's worth taking that pit lane penalty, but also you have to look forward into the season. As you said, it means bringing another power unit into your pool. There might be opportunities later on in the year where you have a better power unit, one that's come off the dyno a little bit better, or one that you've been able to make some reliability changes to and these things. So you don't really want to introduce another one until you absolutely have to. So I understand that it's a really, really difficult decision for the team to make, but there are lots and lots of factors they have to weigh up.
So, of course, then going into Sunday, into the Grand Prix, steady start for both of our boys early doors. We saw a little scrap, actually, Max and Isack. Max chucking one down the inside. I kind of enjoyed that. And actually, like, Isack this weekend has felt pretty strong, pretty confident. Actually, you know, the race pace didn't quite go to as planned, and then the front wing change seemed to give him a bit more confidence later on in the race. But those early little scraps, you know, when you're seeing your drivers, you know, fight wheel to wheel, and I'm thinking particularly when you're at the team with the Ricciardo Verstappen era, kind of 2017, 2018, how clenched are you in the pit box when the drivers get a little bit too close for comfort?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly keeps you on the edge of your seat. And, you know, when you look back to Max and Danny Rick, actually, for the most part, that always went really well, apart from Baku, which we shouldn't probably talk about. But, you know, I think this is one of those things, like, you love to see your cars racing, right? We're a racing team. We always enjoy great racing. You want to make sure that both those cars are going to come out of it unscathed. And ideally, we want to be racing our opponents. But it was great to see both of them. And as you said about Isack, he's had a good weekend. You know, his pace has been good. He certainly gave Max a run for his money this weekend. His qualifying was really good. And again, you know, British GP, it's hard to soak up a lot of the pressure here. The fans are loud. They do have an impact on your mindset, your mentality. And I think Isack's had a great weekend on the back of that, you know. And it was great to see them battle. I enjoyed it. But I have to say that is knowing that it's not me that has to pick up the spanners if it does go wrong. That's
true. You've got the cushy podcast host job now, Cal, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Right, anyway, before we carry on blabbering about this race, let's first of all listen to what Isack and what Lauren had to say after this weekend's Grand Prix.
In the end, it's mixed feelings because I'm happy about how we solved the start issues we had yesterday. That's nice. Pace was definitely better, especially the early laps. I was right with George and Max, and I felt nice. And then we had like a big drop-off of pace. Something was not right, and after the final pit stop, once we changed the front wing, we gained pace again, back to where we belong, basically. Still not everything was fully recovering, but it was a lot better, and I was like, it's a bit of a shame because we kind of wasted a lot of the race. So yeah, bit of a shame, but at the same time I'm happy that actually the pace was way better than what we showed today.
Very difficult weekend here in Silverstone. Never a good feeling to send your drivers in the gravel trap, and obviously we have to apologize to Max. We have been having an issue now 2 weekends in a row, and it's the worst thing for drivers to be let down by the car in high-speed corners, and it's certainly the worst thing for a team to see your driver doing that. So I have zero doubt that as a team we will react and we will make sure that these sort of things cannot happen again, and full trust in our people to solve the situation and be able to give Max and Isack a car they can push with confidence from next week in Spa. Nonetheless, before the failure happens, Max was putting quite an incredible race, being in P3 on the road after such a difficult weekend. Prior to that, you know, 1 week ago we were fighting for the win in Austria, and it's fair to say that here in Silverstone we have been struggling all weekend to find a sweet spot for our car. Despite that, seeing Max P3 on the road in front of one Mercedes, two McLarens was somehow something we would be taking into our pocket. But as we said, this didn't happen, and we will certainly come back stronger. Another positive was Isack's performance, building race after race. He's getting stronger race after race. He's a little bit closer. Nobody's going to be happy with a P5 or a P4 today. Let's see where it finishes. He's not going to be happy with that. We are not going to be happy with that. But the trend is clear. Race after race, there is an improvement, and he's more and more integrated with the team, and he's doing a very good job. And we can't wait to see how it's going to further develop in the season. So a tough one today, but again, we'll be pushing very hard with everyone in the campus and making sure we come back stronger next time.
So yeah, look, that kind of first stint, Max was able to reel George in, overtake him on lap 17, move up to P4, and then Max had a great view of the Lewis and George scrap behind him in that second stint. Of course, Lewis eventually getting past on lap 38. It's one of them where actually watching at home, that battle really did capture, seeing those three cars so close together on track. And, I heard Max speaking post-race saying he kind of quite enjoyed watching them scrap behind him because, of course, they're wasting time fighting, not catching Max.
Yeah, absolutely. I found myself in two minds because as much as I always love to see Lewis and Max have the opportunity to go racing and fight one another, also, George and Lewis were doing us a bit of a favour for a few laps, right? And I can understand Max watching that in his rearview mirrors and going, yeah, you keep going, and I'm just going to try and keep making some time and stay in front. So yeah, torn in two minds about it. But yeah, it would have been great to see all three of them really have a battle.
I do think this bodes well. Again, this is the start of a brand new regulation era. Typically, that's when the field is super accordioned out. And the fact that we are able to get this, we can have our debates, and I've got my own feelings, and I'm sure you do too, Cal, about these rules, but we are getting some on-track scrapping, which is good to see. Although, contrastly, Isack actually ended up having quite a lonely race, coming to P5 in the end. Look, elephant in the room, Cal, we've got to address it, and a lot of people listening and watching will not be happy with how Max's race finished, seemingly, and Lauren acknowledged that as well. Another issue on the rear end, ending Max's Grand Prix this time. We saw a similar issue in Austria qualifying. What can you tell us about your understanding of what happened on this occasion?
This is a disappointing way to finish a race. I think it's a similar issue to the one that we had in Austria in qualifying. Laurent was really clear that, this is about us now finding a solution, right? It's one thing to understand the problem, but it's about finding a solution, implementing it, so we can go back to looking forward at how we can build and move on from here for the rest of the season. It's not something that you want to have to worry about, consistency and aero and all of these things. This is just a problem that we've come across, and we're going to have to implement a solution and move forward. Now, talking about reliability in the paddock, though, it's an interesting one because I very much remember what 2014 was like, which was the last time that we came even close to having such a big set of regulation changes. And reliability up and down the grid was really struggling. And we're kind of seeing the same thing. I feel like teams are much better at sort of managing the fallout from an engine failure or any other kind of failure. But reliability up and down this grid has been a struggle, as you'd expect in this new set of regs. Now, for us, for the most part, if you told me that I'm going to have a problem with one part of the car and it was going to be engine or gearbox or some body work, or rear wing, I tell you which one I'd choose, and it certainly wouldn't be the engine or gearbox. I think this is a solution that you'll find, and that we'll be able to implement something and just get back to looking forward. Like I said, it's disappointing. We don't want to see the same problems happening one week and then straight into the next week. But unfortunately, sometimes that's racing and that's the nature of it. So for us, it's got to be about looking forward, implementing that solution.
And I think, Cal, as well, we came used to unprecedented levels of reliability from that, 22 to 25 era, where we had so many cars finishing, all cars finishing races. That is not normal when you look at the history of the sport. And like you say, we're reintroducing a bit of unreliability. Of course, Kimi had his issues. Nico stopped later on in the race. And again, I think it's going to be a long time until we see all 22 cars finish a Grand Prix. So that is absolutely a factor. Look, again, it's it's one of those issues that it's such a shame so late on in the race. What will be the kind of the post-mortem for this kind of issue? Because of course the gravel trap very much kept the car out of the wall, so that's a good thing. But yeah, how will the team go back and kind of analyse what happened and actually bring meaningful, like what are the steps to bring actual meaningful, so we make sure this definitely doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of understanding it, I think it's going to be the case with something like that your aero data and your hydraulic pressures for rear wing and things like that, they're going to sort of spell out the problem for you probably quite quickly. I don't think that that's going to be a great mystery to the team. I think they're going to figure that out quite quickly, but then it's just, as I said, about how quickly they can find a solution and implement it.
Absolutely. Look, listen, it wasn't the weekend we hoped it would be for Max. It's good points for Isack, you've got to say. And again, I think overall, I echo what you said earlier, Cal, is that, this felt like a really strong weekend for Isack. A bit of a, do you have much to say in terms of the, him changing his front wing and seeming to find much more comfort like he'd had earlier on in the weekend? Do you have much kind of insight into that?
Do you know what? I don't really, but one thing I will say is that it seems like with these cars that generally have a lot less downforce, they're naturally going to be more susceptible to things that aren't working for you. When you have an overall loss of downforce and grip on these new regulation cars, losing a tiny bit more or not having a feel that's as good as you want it, it becomes a much greater issue than perhaps it did in previous generations of cars. So it's great, but I think look, the important thing in that is that Isack obviously figured out what wasn't working for him, and then throughout the week they only progressed and got quicker. So I think they will leave here, and that side of the garage, and Isack and his team, they'll probably leave this track this week feeling really, really quite confident at how their weekend's gone.
Again, it wasn't the race we hoped, but next time out we will be in Belgium, which is kind of a home away from home for Max as well. So another kind of home Grand Prix. That will be lovely to see. But before we move on from this weekend, I'll tell you what, outside of F1, in F1 Academy and F2, Oracle Red Bull Racing, we have had a hell of a week. And let's start off with Nikola Solov, who went back-to-back, took the sweep in the sprint and the feature race at Silverstone, is the first driver in F2 history to win 3 on the bounce, because he won the feature race in Austria, sprint race in Britain, and feature race in Britain. Nikola Solov, wow, he just keeps delivering.
No, absolutely, and that's a great record to have. I don't think people realise in a single make championship like Formula 2 to go and do that and win 3 on the trot and have these performances week after week, no matter what track they go to. It really is an amazing achievement. What a young and amazing rising talent. We're loving that.
He is doing everything he needs to do. If he can keep this momentum going, this F2 championship, it's not going to be easy for him, but he's given himself the best possible opportunity for a seat in 27. Whether an opportunity opens up remains to be seen. But, I mean, he's doing what he can do. He's controlling his controllables, which is all he can do as a driver, right, Cal?
Yeah, that's exactly it. All of these F2 drivers, this is their big opportunity to showcase their skills to every team in the paddock. But, Nikola Solov is absolutely doing that. It's going to be impossible for his talent to be ignored, and he's going to carry on, hopefully, the rest of the season like this. So he's, like you said, he's doing everything that he needs to do and everything that he can do that's within his control.
And then, of course, F1 Academy, Alicia Palmowski taking P1 in the main race, winning her home Grand Prix. Hugely, hugely chuffed for Alicia. She's a great person. It's been so nice spending time with her, recording stuff with Red Bull. She's quality. She's so good. I'm so chuffed for her winning that race. And also, Chiara Batigue, Red Bull Junior, wildcard, 16 years of age, puts it on pole and finishes P2. That is one hell of a debut weekend in F1 Academy for Chiara.
That is, man. I mean, from both of them, for Alicia, for start, I mean, she's clearly incredibly talented. But like you said, what I love about her is that actually she's so great. She's so much fun. She's absolutely brilliant. She's lovely to work with. So happy to see Alicia absolutely smashing it. And then, what an incredible wild card, all right? And these are the times where you get an opportunity that might not have come your way as a race driver, and you've been given this opportunity, and that is exactly what you need to do with it. So bravo.
Bravo, indeed. Cal, listen, the pack up now. So Silverstone's over. We've got a little weekend off next time out. How will it look going from, Silverstone to Belgium? It's not a particularly long trip. It's going to be, lorry freight. Is it a really quick wrap up, or do we have a little bit more time because it is Silverstone?
Well, actually, we are not packing up at all because our mechanics have a TPC tyre test to do at the end of this weekend. So they will be trying to get themselves out the garage and back to the hotel as quickly as they can, because they will be back here tomorrow. Some of the other teams, I'm looking down here in the paddock, and some of them are making fairly decent progress. But yeah, not everyone's going home tonight. So they'll be glad to get that TPC test out of the way, some tyre testing, important data for the team and the driver that will be driving the car. And then, yes, it'll be a bit of a regroup time. They'll have next weekend to stay here with families at home, which is really important in this long season. And then, yeah, off to Belgium. I've got to be honest, I don't really know how I feel about Belgium at the moment, because we've been here in Silverstone this week, this massively sort of energy-starved track. And I'm a little bit scared that it might be a bloodbath for everyone in Belgium, just trying to get enough harvesting done to get around the track at a decent rate.
That final sector at Spa could be, I'm not so sure. I mean, actually, watching at home, Silverstone, this was nowhere near as bad as I expected it to be. It wasn't in Australia, and obviously they have made changes to the deployment rates and all that kind of stuff to hopefully mitigate it. But like you say, I'm cautiously pessimistic, but we'll see. I mean, again, Spa's going to become an alternate race as well, so we have to enjoy it while we've got it still, Cal.
For sure, absolutely. Like all of these races now that we might see them one year and not the next, I think it'll bring a whole new appreciation for them when we do get to go racing there.
Absolutely. Also, one quick question. I'm just intrigued, and maybe the audience listening, watching, hopefully will be as well. TPC, testing previous cars. What kind of insight can you give to maybe people who haven't heard of this or don't understand exactly what this process looks like and what it's for, I guess?
Yeah, so testing previous car, I mean, it's kind of a dual purpose in that it gives you an opportunity for reserve drivers, any of your team's rookies, to get out in a pretty much current Formula One car and get the much needed experience that they will need if they do progress. But also, there's Pirelli have a lot of tyre data that they want to collect and things like that. It's really important, and actually I think it's a very valuable addition to the calendar. Now, I know there'll be some mechanics throughout teams that be like, I could really do without this extra workload. What I will say is that most teams, we have a heritage department or a test team that will take over most of the duties of the TPC. So it's not all doom and gloom for the race teams.
The work never stops. So thank you all for watching, listening, joining wherever you are in the world. Don't forget to head over to my paddock on the Oracle Rebel Racing website. You will find an exclusive video we're going to record straight after this, answering a few of your questions. Cal, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts for the weekend is, to be honest, it's all about the fans and the atmosphere this week in Silverstone. There's not a massive amount of great things that happened in our race, apart from Isack and his truly fantastic performance. He's done really well. But I think for me, the takeaway of the weekend is what an amazing crowd here at Silverstone. Well over 500,000 people attended over the weekend, record attendance. The weather's held out for us, which has been amazing. But the vibes have just been great all weekend. And you know what? Even Max, after having the end to his race, seeing the Lando fans, in that stand cheer for him and him waving back to them, it just kind of goes to show how much love there is in motorsport still.
Absolutely. Cal, enjoy your evening. Have fun at Silverstone. Don't work too hard. I'm sure you won't. And we'll see you next time.